People who have been cheated on. What behavioral changes did you notice right before you found out?
Wait, before we continue, I want to say a quick hi. This is me, Laura, and I am the person behind this channel. YouTube is shutting this channel down, and I need your help. I've just launched a new channel called Laura Reads. There, I'll be reading Reddit stories in my own voice and posting more frequently. I'd appreciate it if you could check it out and subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. It truly means a lot.
In hindsight, there were many signs. After a decade together, his behavior changed virtually overnight. He was working a lot, picking on me over every little thing, drinking more, acting recklessly, and disengaging from our kids. He stopped doing cute or sexy things like jumping in the shower with me or touching me as he walked past. He was always so stressed, completely stressed. He became a complete killjoy about everything. He stopped acting like my husband and started acting like my dad. Every time I went out, it was like the Spanish Inquisition. I had to beg for time away from the kids, just us. He was awful the whole time. He would cry when drunk and tell me I could do so much better than him. He also became inconsiderate while being intimate. Still every day, but just 2 minutes and he was done. I love a quickie, but not when every encounter is a quickie. We stopped fooling around entirely. I thought it was normal new dad behavior. Then I thought he was depressed or going through midlife. He refused any professional help and insisted he'd be fine if I stopped being on his back. I cried myself to sleep every night for 5 years, worrying about my husband's mental health. It turns out that being a cheating person really is quite stressful. Next story, I was married to a jerk who cheated on me with his secretary while I was pregnant with his child. I speak from true experience. These are the signs and symptoms I witnessed. Jobs suddenly became more demanding, requiring later hours and happy hour meetings. He even had to leave Christmas early to get back to work despite having time off. It was suspicious, and toward the end of the relationship, it was quite transparent. Excessive showering, gotta be clean to go cheat and wash the smell off when you get home. Guarding his phone. My ex-husband always left his phone lying around, but suddenly he had a passcode and always kept it with him, taking it into the bathroom while showering. Stop asking about things you care about, your family, job, hobbies, sports, etc. When you talk, he's not listening. Stop wanting to do activities with your family. He loved my family and even declined a free tropical vacation. Using new phrases that are cheesy or too young for him, nothing more embarrassing than having your husband yell "twerk it" in front of your friends. Becomes more antisocial in group settings, sulking over perceived slights instead of mingling like he used to. Arguing about things you never argued about before. Excessive drinking and going out. Stop talking about the little things. Today at lunch I saw so-and-so, or hey, Josh from work has tickets for such and such, or at the bar last night. Stops talking about his own big stuff. My grandma fell and broke her wrist. I got promoted at work. Things a spouse should share. Opened a box of PO and claimed it was to avoid our mail getting mixed up. Lame excuses for everything. Total indifference to things he used to care about. If you find out your significant other is cheating, I suggest handling it like you don't know, which is not hard if they're as checked out as my ex was, and gather evidence. Then, when you calmly and rationally call out, wait for the denial and follow up with irrefutable proof. That worked for me. We got divorced in a fault state, so since I had evidence, he could argue nothing. I kept everything I had brought into the marriage and got full custody of our daughter. He has not seen her in over 9 years. I dodged a bullet by outsmarting him with patience and craftiness. I am now happily married for 7 years to a man who was divorced twice before me due to cheating wives. That is one thing neither of us would ever do to each other. Cheaters suck. Good luck. Edit. I want to clarify, I have not hidden my daughter. The ball has always been in his court. He has my contact info, and even if he didn't, we share enough connections for him to reach her. He abandoned her and has not paid 1 penny in child support. Next story. I had been dating a girl for 3 years, and we had just moved in together when she decided to cheat. We both drank too much at the time, and she liked to go out or attend parties with mutual friends. About 3 months into our new place, I broke my foot racing motocross. I wasn't able or willing to go out much, and that's when I noticed changes in her behavior. Here's what I observed. She no longer wanted to spend time at home like we used to, watching TV, playing video games, etc. She started getting rides with a mutual male friend, Matt, to parties or to hang out with other people every day after work. When I expressed concern, she gave the classic, "We're just friends, you're being paranoid." I rationalized it because we used to go out together a lot. She texted constantly while around me, ignored me when we were hanging out, and kept her phone carefully out of my reach. Our intimate life went from 3 to 5 times per week to maybe once a month, and only after hours of pleading. Once the intimacy dropped off, I began to suspect she was cheating. One night, after she got home way later than she said she would, I pretended to be asleep while she passed out drunk. I went to her nightstand, found her phone, and opened it. Had no password. I discovered weeks of text logs between her and Matt. When can I see you again? I love you, and more. I woke her up, confronted her with the phone, and she broke down, claiming I was the one she really wanted. I told her to get out of our room and sleep on the couch. We continued living together for a few months until she moved in with her dad in another state after failing to get her own place. That's my story. Thanks for reading, internet strangers. Next story. Emotional cheating is what I experienced. A woman from his office walked into a work dinner with her partner, and his behavior immediately changed. She had been working there for a year, and he had never mentioned her, even though I knew about everyone else who worked there, even those who started after the last time I'd visited the office. Somehow, he had failed to mention that she existed. When I realized what was going on, I got a sore stomach from the stress. I told him I wanted to go home, hoping he would come with me. It was really a loaded request, asking him to leave with me and away from her. But he chose her over me. He stayed at the work function, and I had to walk and catch an hour-long train home alone in the dark. He even had the nerve to make it seem to her that I didn't support him by leaving, that I abandoned him, and that he needed her to save him from me, the horrible, jealous girlfriend. When I asked if something was going on, he denied it, making me out to be crazy and jealous. When we eventually broke up after a 7-year relationship, he moved her into our apartment within the month of me moving back to my parents in another city. He suggested it, probably to get me out of the city so I wouldn't see them together and so he could look like the victim, the nice guy everyone thought he was. It was his usual MO, playing the saint trapped by a crazy, jealous girlfriend. He even tells himself that I pushed him to her, but the truth is there shouldn't have been anyone to push him to in the first place. That's why I asked if he had feelings for someone else. He doesn't like being alone or single, and he knew I would dump him immediately if I knew the truth. So he kept me hanging, convincing our family and friends that he was a nice guy trapped by me, even though I wanted to break up, and he insisted I couldn't because he had nowhere else to live. I stayed, he played all that manipulation, and to this day, my family and friends thought he was a saint, and that I was to blame for everything. Next story. For me, I could tell he was growing increasingly distant. He would say I wasn't putting effort into our relationship, but when I tried to be more attentive and loving, he would withdraw. One night, I asked him if there was someone else. He had a panic attack and could not breathe, so his uncle and I rushed him to the ER. For 2 weeks after, he sent me pictures of how the attack had affected his eyes and skin. I felt like a monster. It turned out I had hit the nail on the head and unnerved him. The worst part was that his whole family knew and had been helping him hide it because they thought I was awful based on lies he had fed them. His uncle was paying for his secret cell phone. Everyone encouraged him to leave me for her, unaware that I had been paying most household expenses and doing everything I could to make him happy. He also played horrific mind games, including disappearing with a gun to make me think he might hurt himself. The most traumatizing part was yet to come. When I finally found out why, he said it was because I didn't love him enough. Next story. Every relationship I had that ended because I found out they were cheating had one common denominator. They frequently accused me of cheating. Like, all the time. I have never cheated. For example, my last ex accused me of making plans to cheat on them with an actor from TV. I didn't even know the actor's real name. I just thought they were cute. Cue a huge fight. Later, I found out they had been cheating on me with just a friend. Don't worry. 5 years later, the ridiculousness of it still crosses my mind from time to time. Next story. All these out-of-character signs happening at the same time were what alerted me to his cheating. Suddenly, I put a passcode on his phone and got agitated if I accidentally saw his screen, saying he'd come home at a certain time, then showing up 9 hours later with no explanation, and getting agitated when asked, starting to gaslight, manipulate, scream, lie compulsively, and verbally abuse me daily. Going to the gym daily, even after a 12-hour shift, involves hard labor. Becoming distant and refusing to communicate, even screaming that he didn't want to talk at all. His friends, none of whom knew me personally, suddenly hated me, speaking badly about me and wishing me harm. Making future, including overseas trips, that didn't involve me. Becoming obsessed with corn despite being strictly religious all his life. Looking at other women in public in front of me, comparing me to other women and threatening me with them. Becoming physically abusive when I was upset about his behavior. It turned out he was on dating sites and planning to send me over 700 kilometers away against my will so he could pursue a relationship with another woman in his city. He planned to send me money weekly and visit on weekends to maintain the facade of a marriage. Yes, this man was my husband, now my ex. Advice: you can't change someone who sees no wrong in their actions. How someone treats you reflects who they are. Next story: fearful of any lasting evidence of the relationship. I was with someone for many years and was completely unaware she had been cheating on me for a long time. A few months before she left me for another guy, she stopped wanting to take pictures of us together. This was back in the days of film cameras, and I didn't notice the change because I hate having my picture taken. I thought she was finally respecting that and saving money. Even so, I suggested we get a portrait done together because I was planning to ask her to marry me. I thought it would be nice to have. I still remember her saying it wasn't a good idea because what if we ever split up? It shocked me, but I had other serious things going on in my life and didn't focus on it. After she broke up with me, she told mutual acquaintances that we had only been together for 1 year, not almost 6. She used the lack of pictures as proof that I was a crazy ex obsessed with her. It never occurred to her that people who knew us would confirm we had been together for years, or that I still had pictures from our time together. She also started asking if I would date certain people and telling me whether she approved. Apparently, she planned to control my dating life even after dumping me. But that's a story for another time. Next story. The signs I noticed were subtle at first. She started being a little more distant, and it coincided with a friend's birthday party she went to. I chalked it up to just being past the honeymoon phase. Another sign was that she suddenly had a lot of little events come up. She was usually a stay-at-home, play games type of person, but now she wanted to go out with friends or visit family, things she never did before. The changes in plans were subtle but noticeable. Lastly, I got suspicious when she started adding 2 or 3 guys every day on Facebook from her area. One in particular didn't seem like her type, and my gut told me something was wrong. A few days later, I got a call from her father telling me she had gone on a date with a guy from a city over, and that she was dressed to impress. It broke my heart, but I have profound respect for that man. Next story. In my previous relationship, I was passing her phone to her, and it was unlocked with her Messenger app open. I glanced at the screen and noticed a message from a guy that had XXX at the end. She barely sent kisses to me, let alone anyone else. Immediately, I thought, wait a second. She got annoyed without me even saying what I was referring to. She said, "If you really think I'm cheating, just leave," and went into the bathroom. Next story. Personal experience. If someone is extremely possessive, constantly brings up what would happen if their partner cheated, or seems overly anxious about cheating, they are probably the cheater. I knew a couple like this. The girl was the sweetest person I'd ever met, extremely nice and loyal. She was head over heels for her husband even after years of marriage. It was genuinely inspiring. It made me want a relationship where someone loved me that much. Her husband, however, would always say things like, "If you cheated on me, it would destroy me." At first it seemed harmless, but he said it every week. He knew her phone password and convinced her he had the right to check her phone at any time. Texts, pictures, Facebook, emails. If she changed any password, he had to know immediately. History on computers could never be cleared. When she was talking to me to plan his surprise party, we used code words, but she was too cautious. He went through their messages, thinking we were fooling around behind his back. He forced her to cut contact with Menno, talking, visiting, calling, texting, emailing, or even using Facebook. I let it go because the only option was to let it go or make things worse. 4 months later, she called me. He got a new phone and number, claiming his old phone was lost, and said he would cancel the old plan. As a show of trust, he told her she could check his new phone anytime. While cleaning one day, she found his old phone. She was about to bring it to him but decided to look through it first. It was password protected, but the password was the same as his new phone. She got in. He had been cheating for a while. It absolutely destroyed her. So if someone is overly defensive or obsessed with cheating, it might be because they are guilty themselves and are projecting their own behavior. Next story. Drip feeding. When something that seems innocuous gradually turns out to be much worse. I was out with the girls. No, a mixed group. Actually, it was Dave and his mates. Actually, it was just Dave. Actually, we weren't out. We were at his place. Nothing happened. Okay, we kissed. Okay, we slept together, but it was just once. Okay, I've been seeing him for a year. By the second drip, you can tell something is off. It almost always turns out worse than you expect. There are never only 2 drips. Next story. I have cheated. I was married for 5 years and have learned so much since then. I ended up leaving a wonderful person for another wonderful person. And after much hurt, forgiveness, and growth, I am very blessed with an incredible family. Here are some signs I noticed. I am male. Working late with vague or flippant explanations. Wouldn't your spouse want details if you probed? Note, I cheated with someone at work. Hiding or being very careful with my phone and laptop. Having a confidant who isn't your partner. Unusual or sudden disinterest in intimacy. Disinterest in long-term plans. Feel free to ask questions. Next story. From personal experience. She started getting strangely jealous for no reason and began accusing me of cheating. It felt out of place, and after a few arguments, it became obvious what was happening. I waited until things were calm, then sat her down and asked how long she had been cheating on me. She tried to deny it at first, but I told her to stop lying and tell the truth. She started crying immediately. I stayed calm and told her we couldn't be together anymore. But there was no point in either of us getting angry or fighting. That was it. We broke up and she moved out. Next story. Over the span of 2 weeks, it became blatantly obvious. I asked her where she was and I got "it's none of your business" and "I'm a grown woman" thrown at me. All I wanted to know was if she wanted me to order some more Thai food when she came back. Welp, more pad CEO for me. Eventually, her big nonverbal F you was being gone for days at a time, knowing full well that I hate sleeping alone. She was dumb enough to leave her iPad with iCloud enabled at home, and it revealed that she had been seeing our immigration attorney. No explicit pictures, just her in Vegas. Her home-warming gift turned out to be a stack of divorce papers. Thankfully, it was uncontested. We were adults about possessions, and thank God I didn't have kids with her, but it still messed me up. Next story, life lessons they don't teach you. Look out for yourself because no one else will. Sometimes you must do things you don't enjoy, protecting yourself from people willing to lie and hurt you simply because they are selfish, narcissistic, cheating a-holes. I used to be like you, full of ideals and goodwill, until a series of events showed me that being nice often gets you walked over. I'm still a nice guy, but I'm no longer a pushover. If you suspect your partner is cheating, you have every right to discover the truth, even if it means invading their privacy. Next story. Being extra careful with phone content. My ex even dared me to check his phone because I was complaining about him always checking mine. I made a show of going through his folders and found one full of messages from a single person. He had even used a neutral or male name. My intuition started tingling, so I joked that I'd call the number. He said to go ahead. When I called, someone picked up, and it was my former editor-in-chief from my university publication. My ex started to panic, trying to make sure she didn't talk, but it was too late. I should have thrown his phone against the wall. Putting all messages from someone in a single folder and pretending they're from a guy won't fool anyone. My ex was an amateur. Next story. If I told you what my soon-to-be ex was up to before I found out, you'd think I was a moron for needing so many red flags before admitting it to myself. These aren't universal, but in my experience, more effort and grooming. Oh, so you wear makeup now. More nights out with friends. Needing to, oh, I forgot to grab milk more than once a week. Then being gone for 2 hours, claiming it was just to unwind. Going from being a once-a-year drinker to purchasing and keeping alcohol in the fridge. Always on the phone, typing a lot, not just browsing or watching videos. A huge spike in messages and minutes on the cell phone bill. Never putting the phone down and acting obviously weird about it. From never leaving the kids overnight to taking an entire weekend away alone, citing stress, then suddenly going on a romantic wine tour 3 hours away with friends. Finally, I caught her because my trusting husband was fed up and put a GPS tracker in the van. That's how he caught her with that home wrecker. Excellent story. He had a best female friend. No big deal at first, and she talked once and she seemed fine. But he texted her multiple times a day, which I thought was strange, though I didn't say anything. He got very defensive when my best male friend died and I was mourning, crying every night. We eventually moved in together and he started texting another female friend. I eventually found provocative texts and pictures on his phone. I only stayed because he was my first and I couldn't bear living with my parents again. It's fine to have friends of the opposite sex, but my trust only goes so far. Next story, I found another girl's hair in his bed. He blamed it on his housemate, saying the housemate and his girlfriend had used his done duvet, and that's how it got there. Then I noticed hair ties around the house. Later, I found a shirt in his cupboard that wasn't mine. He claimed it must be mine, or if not, it was his mother's. I went through his phone and caught him. Now he's engaged to my cousin. Next story, signs of cheating from experience. They assume or accuse you of cheating or bad behavior when you've done nothing wrong. Often they are projecting their own misdeeds onto you, lying about small things to cover up bigger things. For example, someone who never shops for themselves suddenly has new clothes, especially undergarments, or is spending money but can't account for it, putting a lot of miles on their car with no explanation. Their family suddenly distancing themselves. Either they are ashamed of the behavior or your partner has lied to justify it. Constantly on their phone instead of paying attention to you. Contacts may have familiar names attached to numbers of people you don't know or scandalous friends. If you truly suspect cheating, check the house and cars for a burner phone. Some hide them in electrical panels or even use a teenager's phone line to hide texts and calls. Next story. The biggest indicator for me was my ex hiding his phone. One time I picked it up to look something up and he flipped, physically attacked me to get it back. I still don't know why I didn't see the hint. The day before he left for boot camp, he wanted to go see his friend Skyla at 9 p.m. Even his parents said, "What the hell, dude? Your girlfriend is more important." Next story. In my situation, it was more of a gut feeling than anything specific. But looking back, I noticed these signs. He started taking more interest in exercising and shopping for new clothes, paying more attention to his appearance than usual. He kept his phone on him more than normal. He changed his phone password, which he had never done before. We used to have access to each other's phones for harmless reasons like photos. This all happened over a week or two, and the password change was what finally tipped me off. I had been oblivious to the other signs at the time. I know there's debate about whether to look at a partner's phone, browser history, or emails. I wouldn't recommend doing it just because, as it can erode trust. But if your gut is telling you something is wrong and you notice multiple signs, I think it's okay to seek confirmation. My soon-to-be ex-husband turned out to be an incredible liar and gaslighter, something I never would have expected based on our history. Next story. Mostly it's about doing things they never used to do. She was always on her phone even though she never touched it around me before. She kept it tilted slightly so I couldn't see the screen. She would talk about her just a friend a lot, then suddenly wouldn't mention him at all and got quiet when I brought him up. She was always relaxed and enjoyed peaceful activities, then suddenly started going to huge parties every night and pulling pranks on the neighborhood. Our intimate life changed drastically. We used to do it every night, sometimes multiple times a day, but she suddenly didn't want any and would subtly push me away if I tried for more than a peck. Being suddenly rejected by someone who used to desire you more than anything was the hardest part. Next story. Recently, my girlfriend of 5 years cheated on me for about 2 months. While I was working and interning, she often claimed to go out with friends, but to strange places she had never visited before. We didn't really have friends, so that was suspicious. She became very protective of her phone and tried to hide it if I glanced at it, especially on Snapchat or Facebook, where she frequently messaged a girl. She also stopped posting pictures of me on social media, whereas she had always done so before. In the end, she had been cheating with a girl she worked with at Home Depot, lying for 2 months about where she was and who she was talking to. I didn't find out until I was on vacation with her and a friend from Germany. I took her phone to look up directions and saw a Facebook message from the girl saying, "I want you." It was a long, painful, angry drive home. Next story signs I noticed before finding out my now ex-husband was having an affair. Suddenly guarding his phone, even though I never showed interest in it, like taking it with him when getting a drink instead of leaving it on the table. Never wanting to be intimate. Taking up a new hobby that I wasn't invited to participate in, spending long weekend evenings on it, and giving few details when asked. Not wanting to do things together anymore, staying home while I went out. Becoming generally withdrawn. I'm sure there are exceptions, but these were the signs I noticed. Next story. If they get mad at your suspicions, that's often them admitting in their own way that they're cheating. If someone accused me of cheating, I would do everything I could to prove I wasn't, not get angry or defensive. I asked my ex why he was adding several gay men on Facebook, and then I found his online profile on a dating site with photos we had just taken days earlier. He had cropped me out, leaving only my shoulder in the image. He broke up with me, saying, "You don't trust me." No kidding. A few months later, my roommate, who was his friend, told me he had been bringing his new boyfriend over to our place to surprise her. In response, I cut the internet lines in her room, disabled her router access, watered down her expensive alcohol, and even put fish oil in her air vents. Both were the worst people I have ever met. Next story signs. I noticed in my situation. 1. They are just friends with someone they talk about constantly. 2. They use every manipulation tactic to convince you it's all in your head and that you're paranoid. 3. They start putting more effort into their appearance for work than usual. 4. Their phone is glued to their hand and they immediately close tabs when you approach. 5. They suddenly stop praising the just friend and increase the behaviors above. For example, you ask, "How's your friend? Haven't heard about her in a while." Oh, they respond, "Oh, don't really see her these days. She's on a different schedule. Have you seen my comb?" 6. Instead of withdrawing from me, the more the affair went on, the more attentive he became, reinforcing the idea that my concerns were unjustified paranoia. It wasn't all in my head. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Always trust your instincts. Even if you're wrong, do you really want to be with someone who makes you feel that way? Next story. When my ex cheated, he was constantly on his phone, always turning it away from me and going out a lot without me. even though I was friends with his friends. That alone didn't raise my suspicion. One night I went to visit my best friend in another city. We were texting, and he asked twice what time I was coming home. I still didn't think much of it. When I got home, the flat we shared was spotless and the bed sheets were changed. He never did housework unless I begged him to. He went in the shower and I went through his phone. I found texts to someone I thought was my friend, talking about how they couldn't wait to do last night again, and how they had almost been caught by friends on those nights when I wasn't there. Next story. A common theme I've noticed is that cheating partners often seem especially fearful of being cheated on. In my last relationship, I was constantly terrified and panicked that he was being unfaithful. This came from experience with cheaters and generally awful boyfriends, not because I was cheating. Something to keep in mind. Not everyone who is afraid is guilty. Next story. I noticed he wasn't as emotionally invested in our relationship as I was, and there were several warning signs. He didn't want to meet my parents and tried to keep our relationship completely low-key. No one around him could know we were together. He is Colombian and traveled there frequently. Every time girls would post on his Facebook wall saying things like, "I miss you" or "I love you." He constantly checked my phone, but I couldn't even hold him. I'm not the type to check phones, so it was especially frustrating. He manipulated me constantly, making me feel awful even when I tried to please him. For example, he picked up a fight with me over lunch, and the next day he made a big deal when I offered to have lunch with him. I always suspected he was cheating, but I had no proof, until one day he texted me saying he loved another girl but wanted me to wait until he decided. My heart broke. I texted him the next day and ended it, refusing to be a second choice. Months later, when seeking closure, he admitted he had cheated the entire time with multiple girls. Even 3 years later, he begs me to get back with him, saying, "You're the best I've ever had." Sadly for him, I'm in an amazing relationship now and very much in love. I've realized what I felt for him wasn't truly love. Story 32. I noticed my boyfriend liking all the pictures of his ex-girlfriend and her current boyfriend on Facebook. When I confronted him, he denied it. Later, the ex-girlfriend's current boyfriend came to me and said, "So-and-so is cheating on me with your boyfriend." Another time, I glanced at his phone and saw him putting hearts in messages, though I couldn't see the text. I dropped it. Soon after we broke up, he was dating her. So, not really signs per se, more like actual blatant cheating. Story 33. Unexplained changes are often the clearest indicators. Look for hasai, changes in behavior regarding physical intimacy, how they act with phones and computers, lack of attention followed by excessive attention, unaccountable hostility. They may even accuse you of cheating. I saw all of these with my wife, but it didn't click until she asked me not to get intimate that night, something I had never done before. I realized she had forgotten who she was in bed with. I hope this helps, and that you never have to experience it yourself. Next story. For me, the signs that eventually added up to suspicion were 1. Staying late at work frequently and uncharacteristically. She was a contractor and wasn't allowed to work more than 40 hours, so working late too often didn't make sense. 2. Texting an unusual amount, especially after arguments, venting to her affair partner. 3. Suddenly being very secretive and protective of her phone. Before, she would sometimes leave it lying around or forget it. After she started cheating, it went everywhere with her. 4. Banging and coming home reeking of it one time. 5. Her lies were believable for a long time, but eventually she couldn't keep track. When I pointed out inconsistencies, she denied ever saying something different and accused me of being mentally unstable. The first clear red flag came when I had her cell phone temporarily and saw a text from a guy I had met at the same time as her saying, "Can I do it without a protection this time?" I confronted her, and she confessed to regularly sleeping with 5 different men. I appreciated her honesty far more than the second one, who convincingly lied for almost a year after being confronted. Next story. This may sound odd, but my boyfriend suddenly became obsessed with playing Words with Friends. He played constantly, which was completely out of character. I eventually checked his chat in the game and discovered that it was how he was communicating with the girl he was cheating on me with. I'll give him points for creativity, but nothing gets past me. Next story. "He's gay and just a friend," she said, the one who came over while I was working out of town. Don't be selfish. Don't you want me to have friends? Later, all our wedding photos were shoved under the bed. When I asked why, she said she didn't like how they looked anymore. She constantly closed the chat windows when I walked by and ended phone calls quickly when I entered the room. While I was away for work, I could barely reach her in the evenings. Sometimes we went an entire week with just one phone call. I never met any of her new friends in the city we had moved to. I saw a picture on her phone of her with a guy at the beach. When I said it made me uncomfortable, she brushed it off as just a friend. Every time I brought up my concerns, she accused me of being selfish and asked if I didn't want her to be happy. She even accused me of cheating with my therapist, the one I was seeing to improve myself as a husband. She also became more attentive about intimacy, which, in hindsight, felt out of place. The clearest confirmation came when one of the guys emailed me directly, essentially exposing everything. It seemed she had been telling them she was separated or in the process of divorcing. At the time, I couldn't admit to myself what was happening. When I finally found out, I blamed myself and felt like I deserved it. I've moved on since then, but it took time to process everything. Next story. Inconsistencies in behavior are a major sign. For example, going from being open with social media and phones to suddenly having passcodes and locks on everything, becoming less open about their day and not confiding in you as much, having frequent long workdays or making plans that don't include you, a sudden increase in phone or social media use, becoming overly paranoid about cheating with no real reason, being part of a friend group where most people are known to be unfaithful, not always a sign, but possible. This topic is honestly depressing. Next story. He was using my car and I noticed the radio station had changed and a quarter of the fuel tank was gone. We can't even get those radio stations where we live. I always fill the tank on Saturday morning, and if he had just driven to his place and back, the fuel gauge would barely move. But a quarter tank is a lot. He had also shaved, which was unusual. I had known him for 12 years, so I could tell something was off. Deep down, I always knew. I just chose not to deal with it at the time. Next story. From my experience, one of the biggest signs was him taking his phone into the bathroom every time he showered or used the toilet and staying in there for a suspiciously long time. So long I thought he had digestive issues. He also became very critical of me, snapped at me, stopped saying, "I love you," and would aggressively grab his phone if I tried to use it for something like GPS. He also started doing new things in bed, though I wouldn't read too much into that alone. It could just be something he picked up elsewhere. Next story. One thing I remember someone saying is, anything can look suspicious and anything can look innocent. A lot depends on personality. Some behaviors are just how people are, but if something is out of character, that's different. For example, being distant could mean cheating, but it could also mean the person is going through something or is upset. Turning their phone away might mean they just want privacy, especially if their partner tends to look over their shoulder. Next story. I took time off work to surprise her with flowers at her apartment the morning after she had taken me window shopping for engagement rings. Instead, I walked into her room and found her with another man. When I yelled, "What is going on here?" she just said, "Oops, busted." Next story. I had been working the midnight shift for almost a year, and my now ex-fiancé wasn't working. We had recently moved to a small rural town of about 3,000 people, and the house next to ours was vacant. About 2 months after we moved in, a guy, let's call him Todd, started renting it. I often noticed a black sedan parked outside his place. It turned out Todd didn't own a car, but his friend did, and that friend had been seeing my fiancé while I was at work. I'm not sure how long Todd knew, but he told me about a month ago. Looking back, I should have realized something was wrong when she was always too tired or too stressed for intimacy and constantly on her phone, laughing at what I assumed were memes. Next story. My mother and I realized my uncle was cheating because of a few key behavior changes. 1. He started drinking more than usual, and the recycling bins were full of beer bottles. 2. He began showering my cousins with random gifts, likely out of guilt. 3. He became very private about his phone. If anyone came near while he was texting, he would put it away or say he was talking to someone from work, which was technically true since she was a coworker. 4. The biggest sign? He invited her and her husband to a family party and behaved very differently around them. The husband didn't know at the time. Next story. He was verbally and mentally abusive, and I should have left long before the cheating. He never paid for anything and expected me to support him while he spent his money on alcohol and weed. One night, he didn't come home. I knew he had been spending time with a girl who was just a friend. He came back the next morning acting surprised I was still there, then suddenly became very sweet, saying, "Let me take you to breakfast." He even paid. That sudden change in behavior told me something was wrong. Next story. They are constantly suspicious of you even when you've done nothing wrong. They justify their own behavior by assuming you must be doing the same. They are also unwilling to talk about what they do when you're not around. Another pattern is fluctuating behavior, being very attentive and affectionate for a day or two, then becoming distant, cold, or indifferent, before suddenly switching back again. I've been in 3 relationships where I was cheated on, 2 of them multiple times, and these patterns showed up in all of them. Next story. If anyone tells you they suspect or know that you're being cheated on, take it seriously, especially if you already have doubts. As someone who has been cheated on and has also unknowingly been the other woman, it's much easier to trust your partner than to believe someone else. The person cheating is unlikely to admit it and will often create believable stories to seem innocent. They may act paranoid, accuse you, or play the victim to gain sympathy. From the outside, these signs seem obvious, but emotions make it easy to justify their behavior. Also, pay attention to their phone. If they check it constantly, hide the screen, or complain about you looking at it, even if you're not, that's a major red flag. I hope this isn't happening to you. It's painful, but try to assess things clearly and do what's best for you long term. Next story. I was in a sort of long distance relationship with a guy. He didn't want to make it official, saying it would break his heart, but promised I was the only one for him and that we had a future. We mostly met when he stayed in hotels near me for work. His colleagues acted strangely around me, and one of them even said, "I don't want to speak badly about my friend, but don't fall in love with him." I told him it was too late. A few weeks later, I visited him at home for the first time. He lived in an apartment above his mother's place. He introduced us, then quickly pulled me away while she looked upset. I assumed she just didn't like me. He showed me his bathroom, which was full of women's products. He claimed they belonged to his mother because her bathroom was broken, but I never saw her use his. The rest of the apartment was also very feminine, which I didn't question. He didn't live alone. He lived there with his fiancée. Looking back, the signs were obvious, but I ignored them. At 20 years old, I was naive and didn't realize I was the other woman. Next story. He constantly accused me of cheating or losing interest in him. I was with him for a long time, while he was secretly dating another girl at the same time, something neither of us knew. He was always paranoid about me spending time with male friends or talking to customers at work, assuming I was flirting. If I wasn't overly affectionate, he'd say things like, "You don't even like me," or "You're not trying to make this work." When the truth came out and I spoke to the other girl, she described the exact same behavior. It felt like his guilt and paranoia were projected onto us, almost as if he needed to believe we didn't care about him, just to justify what he was doing. Next story. I started suspecting something was off when my ex became more protective of her phone. At first, I didn't think much of it. I assumed she just had personal things she didn't want to share. Later, I stopped by her workplace and noticed she was spending a lot of time with a coworker. I brushed it off since they worked in the same department. Then, she told me she had a crush on him. That alone felt like a red flag. Eventually, I saw some of their messages. She had deleted many, but the ones left showed her asking him out. The only reason she admitted the crush was because he told her he was gay. I ended things, though she begged me not to. Ironically, she tried to blame me, saying it was because I was working 12-hour days to support my family and save up so we could get married. Next story. This might sound random, but it's happened to me twice. If you both have iPhones, iMessages usually show delivered or read. If it suddenly doesn't show anything, it can mean you've been blocked. It could also just mean they don't have signal, so don't jump to conclusions, but it's something to watch for. When my boyfriend of 2 years cheated on me, I noticed this pattern. When he was with her, my messages wouldn't go through. When he was with me, hers wouldn't. The same thing happened again recently with someone else I was seeing. Next story. For a lot of people, there aren't any signs because some cheaters are smart and leave no trail. Cheating isn't about hurting anyone. They just want to get their rocks off with someone they have no obligation to deal with regularly. That kind of person doesn't always get caught. They sometimes just want to have physical relations without thinking about it afterward, like their spouse talking about work or their mother. Others are less smart. They have phone conversations or text messages with the person they are sleeping with and start acting paranoid, trying to find out if their spouse is cheating too. That way, they feel better about their choice. They believe their spouse couldn't possibly leave them if they found out because they are cheating as well. Cheating is emotional and related to their current relationship. Next story. Wanting to be friends and get close again to his ex, ditching you to see her any chance he gets, tell you not to worry about him. Being secretive on social media, texting someone, or changing his phone password without telling you. And before anyone says I should have known and broken up, it was a very emotionally abusive relationship, and it took everything I had to finally leave him after a year. Next story goes out a lot, but not with you. Don't come home at night, as someone once said. There's only one thing anyone is doing after 2:30 in the morning. Lots of private texts and messaging. Gets defensive about privacy. I put up with more when I was younger and newly married than I would now. I loved him more than he loved me. Now I think he doesn't cheat because I told him next time I would go on a literal rampage with all his friends. He knows I'm not joking. Basically, we have just let ourselves go. I don't know which is worse, the cheating or being overweight. Honestly, I wouldn't have cared if he let me do the same. But he didn't want an open relationship. He just wanted to cheat. Next story. She starts hanging out with a new group of friends, but never really introduces you. The group is mostly male. One male friend is an orbiter, a consistent presence or topic. She is becoming less of the present example. I barely saw her for 6 months, worked 12-hour shifts, 12 to 16 days a month. She becomes very defensive example. I never asked where she was, but one time I did, and she exploded into a rant about me keeping tabs on her. She starts accusing you of cheating when you haven't. Example, she insisted I slept with the neighbor. I never did. Next story, one thing not often mentioned is being cordial. The cheater becomes unusually polite and distant, almost like the relationship changes from intimacy to a professional one. They may think being cheerful covers up guilt, even as the lack of intimacy gives them away. This happens more often with children, but it can happen with couples too. One troubled relationship I knew involved a husband saying, "I love you," and his spouse replying, "Thank you, I appreciate you saying that," instead of "I love you too," as she used to. At one point, she was out with her friends, and he asked her to say, "I love you too," over the phone. She replied only with, "Uh-huh," or "I agree." He couldn't bring himself to ask, "He's in the room with you, isn't he?" Next story. A few signs to watch for. They accuse you of cheating. They want to go out with a group of friends, disappear the entire night, and the next morning, questionable pictures show up on Facebook. They never let you touch their phone, even if it's to find yours. They start talking a lot about a new friend of the opposite sex and seem to share everything with them. Next story. I had an emotional affair long ago with the father of my child while he was in Afghanistan, and I was married to someone else. As someone who has been the cheating a-hole, I can vouch for a lot of the patterns described. Some signs include spending a lot of time on technology, spending extra time at work, new and excessive grooming habits, and weight loss. For me, I ended up going out with my single girlfriends and partying far more than usual, mostly to avoid being at home so I could have the freedom to check my phone and escape into la la land. When reality hit at home and I realized how wrong my actions were, I found myself picking fights, attacking my spouse personally, and engaging in other manipulative behaviors I am too ashamed to detail. Long story short, I came clean. I went to therapy for my issues. I no longer hide my phone for the sake of transparency, though we still must discuss things occasionally. If I could take every second of it back, I would. I gained nothing from my actions and badly hurt our marriage. I've changed a lot, but occasionally I notice myself slipping into old patterns. Now I know it is entirely my responsibility to take accountability, get help, and communicate when I have cheating urges. I'm grateful to have a spouse I can talk to when I need to, so we can work through issues instead of having explosive fights and constant accusations. After all that, we have a pretty decent marriage. I hope it works out for others too. Hope is not lost. Next story. I've always been very private about my phone. I don't like people reading my messages, but I have never cheated physically or emotionally on any of my partners. I simply had no privacy growing up. My phone never has a lock on it, in case my partner doubted it would feel like a breach of trust in my opinion. On the other hand, my ex was terrible at hiding the fact that he was cheating or flirting with literally every girl who paid him attention. I never learned the full extent of it, and I don't think I ever want to. Just so someone out there knows, not wanting someone to go through their phone does not automatically mean they are cheating. Next story. This might get buried, but I want to share my experience. 1. Their phone is always on lockdown, always in their pocket, on silent, face down, or kept somewhere you cannot reach without waking them. 2. Their phone goes off at odd hours and they always have an excuse. It's my mom, my coworker, or my email. They quickly brush it off and change the subject. 3. Suddenly volunteering for tasks that keep them out of the house. My ex, who hated cleaning, shopping, and running errands, suddenly volunteered for these chores and always had a reason to be gone for a while. 4. Becoming very affectionate. My ex had major guilt because he was cheating on me with his ex-boyfriend, so he wanted to cuddle, hug, and suddenly showed great interest in whatever I said. Guilt can change behavior. 5. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it might be. Ask questions and press for answers. My ex would get defensive and angry if I hinted at wanting to know where he was or who was calling him late at night. Open communication is key. If nothing is wrong, it is usually quickly resolved. Bonus: if you have access to their phone and suspect cheating, check the navigation app and internet history. When I caught my ex, he had addresses in his navigator that he had no reason to visit, and his internet history showed constant email logins. I put the pieces together and confirmed he was hooking up with people behind my back. I do not condone going through someone's private phone, but sometimes it becomes unavoidable. Just know where to look. Next story. Ex-wife of an S-addict. First and foremost, behavior suddenly changes, and new routines appear that they try to make seem normal. Constantly checking their phone but barely responding to you, hiding their phone, controlling which way it faces, and deciding when to acknowledge calls or messages if you are nearby. The biggest red flag for me was the sudden accusations that I was cheating, combined with their paranoia. Mentions of new friends or hanging out with coworkers they never mentioned before were also telling. All the above are extreme red flags. I caught mine too late. Next story. Both times it happened to me, their phone was the biggest giveaway. They would take it anywhere, even to the next room, and were generally very possessive of it. I would sometimes reach for something near their phone just to gauge their reaction. One ex used to talk to me frequently and got annoyed if I didn't reply to texts within 10 minutes, even though he was texting every hour. I have no idea how he found the time to cheat. Phones with location tracking also helped me catch them. For example, "Oh yeah, I just got home, but your location settings on messages show you are still in town." The worst part was the secrecy when honesty would have solved everything. He accused me of not trusting him, when the one thing I questioned was his behavior. Next story. First, he lost 22 pounds. Then he lost his wedding ring. Somehow it slipped off his hand, and he had no idea when or where it might have happened. Suddenly, he only worked late on Tuesday nights. And then, when I bought him a new wedding ring for our anniversary, work suddenly decided they weren't allowed to wear rings anymore. Next story, late to the party, but listen to this. My significant other started seeking other people to talk to about her problems. This escalated because whenever there was an issue and I tried to offer a solution, she didn't like my answer. She began talking to my friend, which I didn't mind at first because I had known him most of my life and trusted him. However, when your partner starts choosing to talk to someone else instead of you most of the time, that is a clear indicator. She then surprised me by bringing him over while I was coming home from work so he could hang out, even though I worked through the week. Next story. I feel the worst problem when it comes to cheating is the long-term effect it has on the person left behind. One partner of mine started texting a friend more often. She got defensive whenever I asked who she was talking to. It got to the point where we were spending Christmas together and she was just on her phone. Grocery shopping, hanging out, always on the phone. She paid less attention to me and came over less. It got the best of me. I snooped. She was cheating, talking to this friend about intimate things, including details about someone engaged. It felt so wrong and it ruined me. Of course, I was the bad guy for snooping. I gave her another chance, a bad idea, but the trust was gone. Our relationship flimsily existed for another 6 months, and that was that. However, in my next relationships, there was always a piece of trust I couldn't regain for myself. I owed these new partners 100% trust, but I couldn't offer it. It was painful and required counseling to work through. The immediate effects of cheating are obvious, but the long-lasting effects linger. Cheating is not just a one-and-done issue, it can permanently damage a part of the other person. It's serious and not a light matter. Next story. A couple of easy signs I noticed with past exes were being distant or unusually quiet, and suddenly asking about my supposed infidelity. One girl who suspected me of cheating was cheating on me, and some of her friends convinced her that I was unfaithful and she should get back at me. As cliche as it sounds, listen to your gut and instincts. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Next story. Paranoia that you're being cheated on is another sign. My ex would constantly go through my phone, Facebook, and even my MySpace account. This was right when people were still on MySpace, just before Facebook exploded. It turned out he had been sleeping with an overweight mother of two who gave him free beer. He was 20, I was 17, and I was the fool who thought I had to work harder to prove I loved him, so he would finally trust me. It was an emotionally and mentally abusive relationship. Next story. The biggest sign is a change in behavior. Talking on the phone in the garage or car while you're inside the house. Guarding their phone obsessively or hiding it while showering. Withdrawing cash from ATMs more frequently or signing up for a new credit card just because. Pulling away emotionally, mentally, or physically. Spending more time on appearance, going to the gym, buying new clothes, changing hairstyles, especially when coupled with other signs. Suddenly having new friends you've never met and being excluded from social activities with them. Changing passwords to everything. Next story, I've never been cheated on, but a friend of mine has. The first red flag was that she cheated on her boyfriend to go with him. Then he cheated on her by kissing a colleague halfway through the relationship. He had to meet with me to squash the information. And I don't think his girlfriend ever found out. Then his girlfriend started creating drama within our friendship group, spreading rumors and pitting people against each other. Eventually, he moved out of their house. One day when he went to collect something, he found a guy they knew watching Netflix with her. It seemed obvious, but it wasn't conclusive. They just said they were hanging out. The takeaway here is that the relationship was already terrible before any cheating occurred. She became unpleasant to talk to, he had already broken trust, and the relationship was heading toward its end from the start. The hardest part is realizing you're in that kind of situation from the inside. Next story. I was still interacting with my ex who cheated on me while I was building our life together, moving away from family and starting my career. She followed me, even after I begged her not to, insisting I needed space to get my footing. She ended up sleeping with a friend I was staying with while saving to get to my own place, then blamed me for being too busy to give her affection. She told all our mutual friends that I had physically abused her, which is false. I have never harmed a woman and cannot imagine doing so. She started hiding her phone and calling me an a-hole for asking questions like who she was texting late at night. $3,000 later. With my career in jeopardy, I guess that was the price I paid. I'm still talking to her, letting her make me feel like it was all my fault. I don't know what to do anymore. Next story, mine may or may not be different from other people's red flags. My cheating ex-boyfriend suddenly went from attentive to distant. It wasn't the cold shoulder, you're cheating kind of distance. It was a nonchalant, nothing's wrong kind of distance. He would be gone for hours, and every time I asked where he was or what he was doing, he would casually answer, "Oh, I'm just doing this at the moment. Sorry I didn't tell you, hun." This pattern repeated and again. Of course, the times he was absent were when he was cheating. He would accuse me of being in the wrong for things I didn't do, pick fights over trivial matters, and make a big deal out of the smallest things. It felt like he was trying to make me break up with him. Later, I found out that was exactly what he was doing. He was too cowardly to admit he was seeing someone else. Next story. The second time I was cheated on, I noticed clear signs. My partner and I were very close. His friends quickly became mine and mine became his, so we were always together. I realized he was becoming distant and wanting to go out without me, which was odd because we had done almost everything together from the start. I initially thought he just needed space. Then, I noticed he always put his phone on silent or kept it out of sight when we were together. It used to be on him constantly, but suddenly he left it in the kitchen or elsewhere. When he went out, he would get home around 3 or 4 in the morning without texting me all night. Eventually, other girls messaged me asking if we were still together. I explained that we were, and they told me they had been hooking up with him. I confronted him. He denied everything at first, but when I showed him the messages, he froze. I grabbed my things and ended it right there. It's been 2 years, and he recently messaged me saying he has changed, admitting he messed up and lost the best thing in his life, and that I will always be the one who got away. It's nice to know he realized how great I was, but it's upsetting that it took that to happen. He seems like a good person now, but I don't think I could go back to someone capable of doing that to me. Next story. Their behavior will shift. Either they will become more affectionate because they feel guilty and are trying to cover something up, or they will grow more distant. When I was younger, a girlfriend of mine cheated on me. I figured it out because she would go out dressed up far more than usual and act disinterested. I got the impression she was trying to impress someone else. And, of course, she was. I suspected she was cheating because she became dismissive about her plans when she went out. Previously, she would have had no problem telling me. If you are perceptive and observant of people's behavior, you can almost become a human lie detector if you know them well enough. In my case, I either followed my intuition or she was just bad at hiding it. If you suspect someone is cheating, trust your instincts and get out of there. It's not worth causing a scene or getting riled up. They made their choice when they started cheating. You can be unapologetic, gather your things, and leave. The time to feel bad comes after you're gone. When I found out my ex was cheating, I packed my things and left. I deleted all contact with her in one fell swoop and stayed cold and unapologetic. Cutting the cord needs to be like ripping off a Band-Aid. Drawing it out only prolongs your pain. Suck it up and get it over with quickly. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.